Welcome to this week's Tech Clinic, where we aim to answer your tech questions and queries about your bikes and equipment. Now, if you're wondering where John is, well, he's at the World Championships in Harrogate on the hunt for hot tech, although I hear it's currently raining there at the moment. Now, if you'd like to submit your questions, you can do easily in the comments section down below. Just use the hashtag #AskGCNTech. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and also click the bell icon. That way, you'll get a notification when we upload our next Tech Clinic, which might even have an answer to your question. So, without further ado, let's get going. The first question is from Aneris Rico. He says that he's just got a new TT bike and he got a great deal on it. Good, love TT bikes. But he says that it has shorter cranks on it than his road bike. And he said that he's temporarily had to try some longer cranks on his TT bike and it had a big negative impact on his performance. And he says he knows that there's a difference in torque between different crank lengths. So if you use longer cranks, they generate more torque. And he's wondering if he should switch to shorter cranks on his road bike as well, and will there be a benefit that he'll notice? Well, shorter cranks are really interesting. I've experimented with it myself on TT bikes, changing my crank length. I didn't put shorter ones on, I put longer ones on. And the idea with short cranks is that they allow you to open your hip angle more when pedaling. Now, the torque you produce from a shorter crank is less, meaning longer cranks have kind of bigger effective gears. But this shouldn't really matter too much. You can compensate for that by just being in a gear lower, so don't worry too much about that. That's not a reason not to do it. But by using shorter cranks, you can open your hip angle more. Now, this can really help with getting the power out in an aerodynamic, aggressive TT position. A closed hip angle means that your legs are brought up closer, tighter in to your chest, and this can be less efficient. It can be harder to recruit some of the most powerful muscle groups in the body, so like your glutes and your hamstrings. And so with shorter cranks, you're able to recruit them in a greater range of motion. Personally, I'd love to try shorter cranks on a TT bike. I've got a TT bike challenge coming up and I'm actually thinking about trying shorter cranks for it, something like 165s. In the past, I've used 172.5s and gone up to 175s. And I found that 2.5mm difference, to me, I too noticed a big drop off. I found it really difficult. On the road, if you ride in a more upright, less aggressive position, as people often do on road bikes, then the hip angle is likely to be more open anyway, meaning that you might not necessarily need shorter cranks. It might not make much of a difference. But if you like it on your TT bike, it's worth trying on your road bike. And if you can replicate your TT bike position to be more like your road bike position or vice versa, then you'll get a greater training effect for your TT bike when you're out on your road bike. Give it a go. Our next question is from Richard Clayton, who says, "Hi, I'm taking a trip abroad with some decent climbing and I'm wondering, could I use a Shimano Tiagra 4600 chainset, compact 5034, with an Ultegra 8050 group set, which is 11 speed, which currently has 5236 chainset on there. So he wants an easier gear. The problem he's got is that the Shimano Tiagra chainset is 10 speed, Ultegra 8050 is 11 speed. So it may work to some degree, but I wouldn't recommend it. The spacing between the chain rings is different from 11 speed to 10 speed, and the chain is a slightly different thickness, different gauge. Now, one of the great things about the Ultegra chain set you have though, on Ultegra 8000, is the bolt spacing for the chain rings is universal on those cranks. That means that now, you couldn't do this with older Ultegra, but now it's all 110 bolt spacing. What that means is that you can put compact chain rings on there, mid-compact like you have, or even you can go up to 55 chain rings if you really want to. The great thing about that means you could just buy some compact chain rings for your Ultegra chain set and put those on if you wanted, and that way that'll work fine. If you want to spend a bit less money, you could get the 11 speed 105 chain rings and they'll fit on fine. It might have a slightly different color, but it'll still fit fine. and that way you can get a 34 on. If you didn't, just make sure if you do that, that you lower your front derailleur slightly if you change to compact rings. Another option, if you don't want to change your chain rings, is to get a different cassette on the back if you haven't done already. So you could get a 30 or a 32 cassette. If your Ultegra has a long cage rear mech, then it will take up to a 34 cassette. If it's just a normal one, then it's officially rated to a 30-tooth cassette, but it will take a 32. I know because I've done it. You just wind in the B limit screw. I did that for my Everesting and it works. Have a question from the old grey dude now, who says he loves the show and he has a question just out of interest. Not many things on bikes are standard. There's so many different sizes and types of headset and bottom brackets and hubs and all the rest of it, but pedals, the threads on them seem to be all the same. Was there ever a time when there were several different sizes of pedals? Well, if you are the old grey dude, you can't be that old because, well, even in the 80s, there were still different pedal standards. But it's a good question. Thankfully, we only really have one pedal standard these days, but imagine if it were like bottom brackets. Ugh, that would be horrendous. I mean, it's a good fact actually, the first bikes, people's left-hand pedals kept on unscrewing. So this is back in like Victorian times, 1800s. They had to work out that they needed to put a left-hand thread on the left-hand pedal to stop it unwinding as people rode it. Crazy. Anyhow, most pedals have a 9 by 16 inch by 20 thread per inch threads. Although pedals for one-piece cranks back in the day did have a ½ inch by 20 thread per inch thread, if we're getting really nerdy and geeky about this. And then older French bicycles used to have 14 by 1.25 millimeter threads, but these are pretty rare. Thankfully, you don't see many of those, but there you go. Anyhow, you asked, so I answered. Next up, we have a question from Dapster, who says he loves the show. My question is, from the advent of through axles, how come rim brake bikes don't come with them? Since road bikes use 100mm forks with a through axle, I'm sure they could do the same for the rear. A 135mm rear through axle would be brilliant on a rim brake bike. The answer is that they're heavier and they're designed to deal with heavier loads on the axle. Now, on a road bike with rim brakes, this isn't required a lot of the time. It might be beneficial to some really powerful sprinters perhaps, but disc brakes require them because of the larger asymmetrical torsional strain that's developed from having the brake low down next to the axle on one side. And so under braking, it's creating a twisting force in the bottom of the fork. So you need that greater strength and rigidity of the through axle holding it all together. So that's your answer. Next up, we have a question from Solid Velocity, who says, what do you do when the disc rotor is not rolling straight? He says his road bike loses a lot of speed when the disc is rubbing against the brake. Yeah, unfortunately this is quite common. Disc rub can be really annoying when you're riding along and you've got that you can use a tool to bend it back into place if the disc is warped or bent. But before you do that, check that the caliper is aligned properly. If the caliper has been knocked, then it might be rubbing on the disc. Now, we have video where it teaches you how to recenter the caliper so you can make sure that the disc is right in the middle. Now, if you've tried that and you can see that it is the disc that's bent, it's easy to check. You can look and you can just spin the wheel and see as it moves around. If it's like got a wonky disc, you'll see it moving. If it is warped, then you can try and bend it back with a tool. But generally, the best thing to do is unfortunately to replace them, because once they get hot again, they can often then bend again, and it's very hard if a disc is badly warped or bent to ever get it back perfect. It's tricky to do. It's one of the unfortunate downsides to disc brakes. A question from Reese Morgan here, who says he's got a Canyon Aeroad CF SLX disc. Good good bike that. And he's currently running Shimano Ultegra 6800 mechanical. So he's on Canyon's mechanical frame set. He's going to upgrade to ETAP, which means that he's no longer going to need all the little holes for wires and stuff that are in his frame. And he's wondering if there's any hacks he can use for grommets or bungs to cover the holes and protect the frame. Are there any hacks or bodges that he can do? Well, a short-term fix is a bit of electrical tape. That'll, worth doing, especially around the head tube, as it will stop water getting in there and potentially affecting or washing the grease out of the bearings that are in your headset. Other brands may have frame grommets. You say that Canyon doesn't offer the frame grommets for that particular issue. Other brands will have frame grommets that will probably fit, or that you could slightly modify to make them fit. I would investigate that. Failing that, I would love to hear from you guys if anyone watching has any suggestions of hacks that Reese can do. I mean, if you really wanted to go to town, you could go to a carbon bike repair frame specialist, such as Carbon Bike Repair, who we've visited before, and then they could completely cover it up, the holes, with carbon and colour match with the rest of your frame. But that would probably cost more than you're wanting to spend, I'd imagine. So let us know in the comments if anyone has any suggestions for that. A question now from MM3 Burnett, who says, I am upgrading my cassette and crank sprockets soon and was wondering, has anyone ever powder coated them? I'd like my bike to stand out, but I'm unsure how it would affect shifting. I don't think a powder coat would last on those components unless it was some fancy pants tungsten carbide coating with really high hardness on it. But I mean, it would probably come off as the chain runs through it and end up clogging up the chain somewhat with a bit of residue. And I would also imagine that powder coating adds quite a bit of thickness, enough, I would imagine, to interfere with the tolerances of the ramps that are really actually quite precise on the cassette, which could well affect your shifting. There are loads of other things that you can do though. So Wend wax is a coloured wax that you can get in various different colours. You can put that on your chain if you really wanted to, or you could get a gold chain. I mean, we all love gold chains. And KMC, they also do different coloured chains as well, so you get a coloured chain perhaps as well. But unfortunately, powder coating your chain rings, yeah, wouldn't suggest doing that. Lastly this week, we've got a question from Yerbit Noob, who says, can we all just agree that front derailleurs are more trouble than they're worth? And can we move on now, please? I'm a mechanic and they're the bane of my life. No, we can't. Well, one-by systems do have some advantages, admittedly. They're lighter, they're more simplistic, there's less to go wrong, and they can be more aerodynamic too, and they can look nice as well. You have fewer gears, you have bigger jumps between those gears, and well, narrow wide front chain rings are less efficient in terms of friction and drivetrain efficiency than 2x setups. So no, I'd quite like to have the option of both, and I'd like front derailleurs to stay exactly where they are for the foreseeable future. Anyhow, I hope you found this video interesting and informative, and if you have, then please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to submit your questions down below using the comments section and the hashtag AskGCNTech. And if you'd like to get your hands on one of these awesome GCN hoodies, well, you're in luck. They're available in the shop. This one's actually my favourite, navy and white. Classic combo. To watch more videos, you click down here.